dynamic glaucoma consultant. He's attached with Netralayam and BBI Foundation VIP, and he'll be sharing his tips on how to have a successful trabeculectomy.
Thank you so much, Manish sir, for including me in this CME and for the nice introduction. So I'll be talking about trabeculectomy, the gold standard surgery of glaucoma. First of all, there is no financial interest in the surgical procedure or any of the techniques or instruments shown in my presentation. So elevated intraocular pressure is one of the most dangerous risk factor and most significant risk factor in the management of glaucoma. And if the pressure is high, the glaucoma is going to progress only. So therefore, if the glaucoma is not able to be controlled by medical management, we have to plan a surgical intervention. In regard to that, Kane's trabeculectomy, which was invented in 1968, remains gold standard still now. Till now, it remains gold standard for glaucoma procedure. It is one of the most commonly adopted glaucoma surgery. And with the introduction of metabolites, the surgical success rate has been increased from 26 to 90% plus in good cases. So indication of doing a surgery, glaucoma intervention surgery, is documented field loss or optic nerve damage despite of maximum tolerated medication and laser therapy, anticipated progressive damage of the nerve or field loss and well documented, or intolerably high intraocular pressure. And sometimes if the pressure is under good control and the glaucoma is under control, there is no progression and patient develops cataract, then we can combine it with the cataract surgery. One more indication could be a poor compliance to the medicine. Sometimes the patients are not able to put drops on time. Sometimes affordability issue is also there. In such cases also we can consider doing a early glaucoma intervention in form of surgery. So there are two types of basically trabeculectomy. One is fornix based and limbus based. In limbus-based surgery, incision is made away from the limbus and the flap is formed over the limbus. The advantage is, since the limbus is closed, the area around the limbus is closed, it allows a watertight closure of the wound, so there is less chances of early wound leak or conjunctival leak in early post-op period. Disadvantage is, the blade which is formed migrates towards the limbus. There is a phenomenon called a ring of steel. The ring formed around and which is circulated by a fibrous capsule. Very localized area of bleb may form, or there are chances of encapsulated bleb also. A fornix-based flap, nowadays most of the surgeons have shifted to fornix-based surgery. It is easier to perform, and the first incision is made near the limbus. The flap is just behind, so near the fornix, so it is called fornix-based. It is easier to perform. There is more exposure, and the assistance by you don't need a very good assistant. Also, it's easier technique. Disadvantage is since the conjunctiva towards the limbal size is loose, there is chances of wound leak or conjunctival leak in initial period. Morphoid self-size system is a modified trabeculectomy system which is aimed to reduce the complication rate of trabeculectomy and reduce the chances of hypotony and bleb-related endophthalmitis and other complications. So what it advised is the site of surgery should be always superior part of the globe. And if the superior, because it is well covered by the lead and there is a chance of infection and other incidents of other complications. And if the superior area is not available, if it is scarred or it is thinned out, then other area cannot be taken. You have to go to other techniques like a drainage implant, which can be done in inferior area also. So first step is taking a traction suture. So they have suggested to take a corneal traction suture in place of conjunctival normal brittle suture. Why? Because in corneal traction suture, there is no chance of hyphema, whereas we're taking a bite from the conjunctiva. Sometimes there is bleeding and hyphema, which can cause inflammation and reduces the chances of bleb success. So that corneal traction can be done by 7-0 silk or 6-0 silk suture. Now next is a conjunctival incision. So we can, to get a diffuse bleb, the incision should be small, around 5 to 10 millimeter. And here, this is how the incision taken from limbus. The conjunctival handling should be very meticulous and very gentle. If the conjunctiva is damaged, we are going to lose, may not be lose, but they're going to reduce the success rate of the surgery. After opening the conjunctiva, next is scleral flap. Now there are different techniques, different designs, different techniques of doing scleral flap. Some people do triangular flap, some people do a rectangular flap. So everything works fine. Whatever is you are comfortable and whatever success is better in your hand, you can try doing that. This is the video showing the both the steps. The conjunctiva should be handled very meticulously, and the incision should be 5 to 10 millimeter, and should not be any back radial cuts. After that, cauterization should be meticulous, because a small amount of bleeding or hemorrhage can reduce the chances, can induce inflammation and reduce the chances of success. Next step, to create a scleral flap, I usually use a triangular flap, and the flap initially created by 11 number blade and this 11 number knife, and then the flap is raised, and after that I take 15 number knife and then complete the flap. So it should be half thickness, not more than that, and you should not go very anterior to it, very anterior towards the limbus. You should be little away from the limbus, so that the blade, the aqueous will go posteriorly, and the blade you desire is going to form posterior, not anteriorly. If you go very anterior, there are chances of getting anterior blade. Now, as I said earlier, the success rate of trabectomy is further improved by using antimetabolites. What happens in because after the surgery, there occurs subconjunctival or episcleral fibrosis or fibroblast proliferation. So that should be prevented by using 5-fluorouracil or mitomycin. They are antimetabolites. They prevent fibroblast proliferation, so that they can improve the success outcome of the trabectomy. So few injections can also be given in post-op period. Mitomycin is the most used antimetabolite. It is actually a neoplastic agent or used in various types of cancer. It is a DNA cross-linker inhibitor, so it prevents fibroblast proliferation. In ophthalmology, it has been used in multiple purpose. For trabeculectomy, generally we use it in a diluted concentration. So mitomycin is available as a powder form. We dilute and form a solution, and the solution is soaked in a sponge. So generally we use a PVA sponge or mercury sponge, cut into pieces and dip into the mitomycin solution, and then with the help of sponge we apply the mitomycin in the area posterior to the scleral flap. Now, timing depends on how much amount of action you want from the mitomycin. It can be 1 minute, 3 minutes, and the concentration can be 0.4 milligram or 0.2 milligram. So this is the video showing how the mitomycin sponge should be applied. You should be careful not touching the edges of the conjunctiva, so that you get a necrosed area, and it should be applied away from the area of scleral flap. You should push the sponges a little further from the area of flap, so that you get a posterior bleb, not the anterior bleb. And after removal of the sponges, the area should be meticulously rinsed with at least 20 cc of saline or ringer lactate. Alternatively, we can also inject mitomycin in subconjunctival space before the surgery. Now, here, the very diluted concentration of mitomycin is used, which delivers a consistent dose of around 20 microgram. So actually, if you are using a 0.4 milligram concentration, you have to dilute it, mix it with the 0.1 ml of lidocaine, 0.1 ml solution, so that you get a 20 micron dose. So advantage of this method is, since you are injecting very posteriorly, there is a chance of getting a well-defined, large diffuse bleb, and there is also no risk of retaining sponges and other things. There is no risk of getting anterior bleb also. And there are several studies we have compared the results from the sponge-based application and injection-based application. They found that the injection is little better than the sponge-based application of mitomycin. This is another adjuvant which can be used. It is a collagen implant. It's called Ologen implant. It's a glycosaminoglycan polymer which acts as a scaffold over which the fibroblast grows, and it forms a matrix. So there is no adhesion of subconjunctival space between conjunctiva and the sclera. So it prevents the adhesion, and it allows fibroblasts to grow in a modified way, so that there is no scarring. But there are several studies have compared the outcome between the mitomycin and the Ologen implant, and they found that initial period after post-operative period, the control is better. IOP control is little better with mitomycin group as compared to Ologen implant. So this is the meta-analysis we have compared. They have also said that initial phases, in the first year of after surgery, the control is better with mitomycin, little better with mitomycin as compared to Ologen. And mitomycin is very cheaper, widely available drug. The cost around is 200 rupees only, less than 200 rupees. Next step is the creation of anterior chamber entry and the creation of the sclerostomy. So first step should be, before entering the anterior chamber, the first step should be creation of a paracentesis, so that it allows us the gradual decompression of the globe. And once you achieve a gradual decompression, go ahead and enter into the anterior chamber and perform sclerostomy with a Kelly's punch. Kelly's punch allows a very controlled and very measured amount of sclerostomy so that you don't get a very high amount of wound leak from the area. And after that, the wound is closed with the first apical suture is interrupted one. 10-0 nylon is a good one with apical suture. Apical sutures should not be very tight. The wound is, you are not aiming to achieve this watertight wound here. There should be some amount of leak or ooze from the wound so that you achieve a success from the trabecutomy. And after that, we have to do a releasable suture. So releasable suture is a must. It's a very good technique to titrate our surgery and outcome of our surgery so that you don't get a very big blip in the first post-op day and don't get a hypotony, so that you can control the decompression or decrease in IOP in a graded way. So this is a technique. There are many technique of doing a releasable suture. This is a technique which I follow. First, I take a bite in the cornea, and then I enter from the. It is done with 10-0 line suture, and then I enter in the flap, and from the flap we take a transverse bite, and with the 3 folds of nylon suture, it is locked. The suture is locked, so it is just locked. We are not tying it. It is just locked, so that in post-op period, if we pull this part of the thread, this part of suture, the whole suture will open up, and this will allow the flow of fluid from this area, so that you can decrease the IOP. So after doing all the measures, also we obviously we are supposed to encounter certain complications. Complications are very common in trabecutomy. That is why all the steps should be meticulous, and we should aim to achieve a gradual decrease in intraocular pressure. So that will decrease our complication rate. So complications will be covered by Dr. Surajit. Post-op complication, I'll be talking about intraoperative complication only. So post-op is covered by Dr. Surajit. So intraoperative complications could be first, while handling the conjunctiva, can get a buttonhole in the conjunctiva, especially if you are using a tooth forceps. So if it is a small one, it will heal spontaneously. If it's a little large, you can close it by the 10-0 nylon suture, like in this fashion. Next is scleral flap damage. Now, sometimes while making this scleral flap, there is a damage to the scleral flap. If the damage is small and it is before sclerostomy, then we can suture it or go to a new site and create it. But if the damage is after making a sclerostomy, then see if the damage is minor, then suture it. If the damage is severe and you see that it's not salvageable, then better to cover that area with graft, scleral fascia or graft, and then patch the whole area, and then perform a trabecutomy next time in some other area. There could be vitreous loss also, especially when we are dealing a case of ophthalmos or a phakic eye. In such cases, you have to be ready with vitrectomy cutter. And bleeding is something which could be very dangerous. It starts from conjunctival bleed and can vary from iris bleed, and can be very severe, and you can have a suprachoroidal bleed also. So the aim is to go very slowly, allow gradual decompression of the globe, start the patient on maximum medication, topical and systemic, before trying to do a trabecutomy, so that the IOP drop is gradual and there is no sudden decompression which can lead to suprachoroidal hemorrhage. Suprachoroidal hemorrhage is a very vision threatening condition, and many of the patients will lose vision because of this. This is one complication that we must avoid. And other complications that you can get flat chamber in the while doing the surgery because of the posterior push. In such cases, you can push visco, put visco in the anterior segment, or push an air bubble to maintain the chamber for some extent. The rest of the post-operative complication will be covered in the different topic. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Thank you.